what the order is? What's the
Andrew,
order?
you want to go through the order?
Yep. So I'm going to start and welcome, and then I'm going to introduce Michelle to talk about MoMA quick, and then she's going to introduce you and Joni, and then Joni, you're going to start, right?
Yes.
And
What
then,
am I? And I'm going to start with just talking about MoMA, right?
well,
Wait.
Michelle's going to talk about MoMA, and then you jump in about the tax credit incentive, and
Okay.
then Michelle introduce Keena. And then how you guys are going? What's your order, the three of you?
I thought I was going first, and then Michelle, and then Keena.
Okay, that's what I
Okay.
thought. Yeah.
All
And
right,
Keena,
here we go. I'm going to let everybody in.
and I've got your chat thing to add, Keena.
Thank you so much.
Yep, my pleasure. Welcome, everybody. Shoot.
White and black.
Right, wait, this is there's a whole lot of white
Wait.
skin and black. There's a whole lot of white skin and black. Oh, shit. People, period.
I don't think.
Okay, everybody's in. If you guys want to take off here.
We lose Andrea. Is she still with us?
It looks like we lost her.
She's probably going to log back in any second. Are you going to spotlight?
I've got you guys pinned, and let's do spotlight for everyone. Oh, no, I got to go back and do them individually. Okay. Bear with us, everybody. We lost one of our hosts, so she'll be back in a moment. Here she comes.
So sorry. Technical issues. Hi.
Is it happening now? Goodbye, drive
Am I back?
Okay, there we go. There's everybody.
So sorry. I disappeared for a minute. Welcome,
Sounds like
welcome.
you're eating them.
Look at this number, 66 people joining us. Hi, I am Andrea Sporsick with the Missouri Film Office, and this is our second MoFilm monthly meetup. Thank you all for joining us. This is awesome. We were going to play a game. How cold is it where you are? Because we have these crazy winter temperatures. So I think I'm in Jefferson City, and it's about 20 degrees here, 22 maybe now by now. So that's a fun thing. We're going to talk about self-taping today. This is a new area for me. I don't work on the talent side as much, so I am excited to learn from our panelists today. First, I want to introduce Michelle Davidson, who's representing the Missouri Motion Media Association, as well as participating in the panel today. And it's a great partnership between our two organizations to put on these wonderful COVID era networking and educational sessions. So thanks you guys for being here on a Saturday morning. Michelle, you want to talk about MoMA?
Certainly. Thank you, Andrea. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're all staying warm and enjoying this Saturday morning indoors. It is currently in Kansas City, which is where I am. It is 27 degrees. So there you go. Much better than negative 13. So MoMA is the Missouri Motion Media Association, but we say MoMA for short, not Mama,
Right.
MoMA, right, Joni? Mama, MoMA,
Yeah.
MoMA. I say MoMA. It's a weird organization that advocate for the film incentive in Missouri. A lot of you have been on movie sets that were attracted here because of our previous incentive that sunset in 2013, like Gone Girl, Up in the Air, Winter's Bone. So we're a statewide organization that advocates and goes to Jeff City to try to fight to get our incentive back to Missouri, because we know it means so much for our economy, jobs, and all of you. So you get opportunities to work in your state and you don't have to travel. We hate the idea that we're educating all of these filmmakers and actors and producers on all sides that leave the state because there are not enough job opportunities here. So we are advocating for a new incentive. A bill has been filed. It's very exciting. I think Joni's going to walk us through the process of what happens from here until hopefully it gets passed and gets approved, and we'll have that incentive back on the books. There are a lot of states around us that do have incentives, and I'm sure you've seen those casting opportunities, like in Oklahoma and Arkansas and Georgia. So we want those same opportunities to be here. You can be a member of MoMA. You just go to momaonline.com, and we have different ways you can join as a student or as an organization or just an individual person. It's $25, and that goes toward helping our efforts to hire a lobbyist, or for all of us to, put packets together, along with doing these educational things that we're partnering with Andrea's office. So thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us this morning. I'll let Joni talk about the actual process that happens as we have this new bill that's filed. So we're very cautiously optimistic. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So hi, everyone. I'm just, Michelle is the new president of MoMA. I'm the past president of MoMA. I was for the past 8 years, and I just want to tell you a little bit about what's happening right now at the legislative level. So there is a bill that's been filed. It's SB 367. It has been filed by Senator Denny Hoskins, and it would reinstate the film incentive. I think it would reinstate it to start back in August if it gets passed. There's a lot of really high hurdles that we have to get over in order for the incentive to get back on the books. There's an upcoming hearing. If you know of any business or anyone who has any information about lost economic opportunities that they could share with a letter of support, just please get in touch with me afterwards. And you can email me at jtcasting@me.com, jtcasting@me.com. And I would pass along some guidelines and talk to you about, if you should send a letter of support or not. We're not looking for hundreds of letters right now. We're looking for specific strategic letters from companies who can talk about economic impact. And then what will happen is if we get passed out of the committee, we probably go to another committee and they have to talk about it as well. And we get passed out of that committee, and then we go to the Senate floor and they debate it. And if the Senate passes it, it would go to the House, and the House would have to pass it. And then if it would get passed out of the House, out of the legislature, the governor would need to sign it. So there's a lot of hurdles that have to be passed. But most important, we just enjoy educating legislators about the industry so they understand a little bit more, that it's just not giving a tax break to Hollywood. It's about people in Missouri having opportunities and working in Missouri. So that's it.
Awesome. Thank you. So I think I'm supposed to introduce our panel, and I'm excited that you guys all can see everybody here. Joni is a casting director out of the St. Louis area, of course. Michelle acts out of the Kansas City metro area. And Keena is from Jefferson City, but she is joining us from sunny, I'm guessing, Los Angeles today. So we're happy to have you back in Missouri today, sort of. And I'm, again, looking forward to this presentation. And we are doing these monthly meetup every month. As the title says. We hope you will continue to join us. And then after the session, we are going to do a networking time. You don't have to stay for that, but we hope that you do. And we had our first networking session last month. And actually, I've already heard from 2 filmmakers that met, one from Springfield and one from St. Louis, met on the call and have had a meeting already about a project. So this is very cool. And I hope this continues to just grow. So I'm going to quit talking and let these ladies teach us about audition self-tapes. Take it away, Joni.
Okay, great. Hello. Happy Saturday, everyone. I've done a lot of Zoom auditions and Zoom callbacks during COVID, but I really do miss seeing all of the actors in my office. And that's one thing I do look forward to is getting to actually interact and see you guys in person again. But I know that, self-tapes have been around for quite a while, but now during the pandemic, it seems like almost every project, is asking you if you have been invited to audition to submit a self-tape. I, as a casting director, use them I have been using them for quite a while before COVID. For example, if someone would not be able to come into my office on a particular day that was set aside for casting a project, and if they, would say, hey, can I send in a self-tape? Depending on the circumstance, I would say certainly, or no, not for this one. Especially if people needed to interact together in the audition. But also when I would reach out to other regions, I'm in St. Louis, but quite often I'm getting auditions from Kansas City actors or Chicago actors or Memphis or Indianapolis or Louisville. So I'm working the region quite often. And so they were always sending in self-tapes, before COVID. But now it seems like it's just the go-to way to get projects cast. And, it's different it could be different in the region you're in. I can only speak, from my opinion and my experience. So perhaps you're someplace where you're actually going to in-person auditions. I don't know. But for right now, for me, I'm most comfortable doing self-tapes. So, one thing that I really wanted also to say before we get started is I have been absolutely amazed by the self-tapes that have been coming in. Actors have been doing a great job. And today we'll just talk about some techniques that maybe if you're uncomfortable or there's some aspect of self-taping that you have questions about, maybe we can go over that. Maybe if you're more advanced and you've been doing this for a while, it'll just be good to see what other people are suggesting, just to have some reinforcement that you're doing it the right way. But really, it's about some simple techniques, things that you can do at home just to help your self-tape seem a little more professional, even though it's coming out of your home. One thing that happened when COVID started, we were all trying to figure out how long this was going to last, how we were going to move forward. And I found out some agents were actually sending out mock auditions to their talent so talent could practice self-tape techniques. And I just thought that was so great that, agents were trying to do their best to move business forward and to give feedback, to actors, because they really needed that. So I just thought that was great. And I just wanted to say, kudos to all those agents who did that for your talent. That was really great. I think one of the major problems with self-taping that talent may come across is that there's not a casting director in the room with you. So you're not getting instant feedback as to what's working or getting a redirection on something that you're doing in the audition. Casting directors, we want you to have a great audition. So, that's something that you don't have. You don't have eyes on you watching your audition to give you some positive feedback or to say, hey, let's change the way you're holding this, or let's, take it down a little bit. So that's one of the struggles. And I think as an actor, you just have to make a choice. Read the instructions that casting directors put together for you before you do your audition, and just make a choice and go with it. And that's, each self-tape is a learning experience as well. So you probably learn and you get better at it the more that you do it. I've also been really impressed by the number of real family members and quarantine mates or roommates that have stepped up when a project had two characters that needed to interact closely in a scene. A lot of commercials, the creative, they're changing it so people are spaced more apart, or they're coming up with ways to film that's, you know, safe on the set for talent. But I've been amazed, like when I'd say, hey, you know, quarantine mates are welcome to audition for this, because we are looking for somebody who can be close to one another in the scene. And there's a lot of good talent that's out there in your homes that I'm like seeing for the first time. So I bet somebody comes out of this process, not an actor before, but says, hey, I can audition because I got cast in this project with my actor husband or actor wife or actor mom, dad. So that's been great. And, you know, self-tapes, like I said, have been around for a while, and they allow talent to compete in other regions that they might not be able to go in person for the audition. But what that also means for talent in St. Louis or talent in Kansas City, it means you're also competing against talent from other regions now who are self-taping and are willing to self-drive, you know, to your location. And that's another reason why I work the region so much, is I pretty much figure within a 4 to 6 hour drive time, you know, talent are willing to self-drive for, you know, compensation for the day of self-driving. But that's why I work the region. So the St. Louis talent here are now competing a lot during COVID with talent outside the region. So it's good that you can compete in other regions, but you also have more competition. So now I'm going to start my PowerPoint presentation. So here we go. Okay, great. Can everyone see that? Have I done that properly? Okay, great. So again, what's changed during COVID? For me, no in-person auditions, instead self-tapes and virtual auditions. My lobby has been empty for almost a year now, and I really do look forward to seeing talent back in my lobby soon. So my number one tip is, whether you use a smartphone or a camera for your audition, is to get an inexpensive tripod, because your camera should always be stationary. It should be eye level, and that's important. Eye level is really important, or just a little above your eye level. Or if you're using a video camera, consider setting the white balance on your video camera. If you do not have a tripod for your smartphone or camera, you can use boxes or books to stack up the device that you're using to record. But, you know, tripods are inexpensive, and I think it's going to make a world of difference with you being able to set frames and alter or change your frame in a good way for your audition. Okay, let's talk about framing and location of where you're going to do your self-tape. I have hidden the faces to protect the innocent here. These are just some samples of things just to avoid. So like the first sample, you want to avoid, you should feel the camera frame. It's about you. It's not about, and this is why having a tripod will help you adjust your frames. You want to fill the frame. Don't leave a lot of space above your head or on the sides. And then avoid distracting locations. For instance, a lot of people are ending up having to set up a little mini studio in their basement, but your frame really shouldn't show the unfinished area of your basement or wherever you're auditioning. When you use a smartphone, make sure that you film in landscape mode. So you can see, here's an example. This is, I mean, I took these still frames out of an actual audition that happened. A lot of this happens quite frequently. And I usually try to say in the auditions for self-tapes, do not turn your smartphone once you press record, because it will turn you actually to the side. And I do get auditions every once in a while where someone has started out in portrait mode and then they turned their camera while they were taping, because we're used to doing that normally, you know, when we're filming stuff, but it turns you completely sideways if you do that once you've pressed record. So avoid that. And I would say avoid portrait mode, because we get these big black bars on the side if you use portrait mode with your smartphone. And using landscape mode is generally best for the virtual casting sites that casting directors are using. And then also don't place your smartphone below your smartphone or your recording device below your eye line, because if it's below your eye line, then you have to look down at it, and the camera is looking up at you. And so that's not an attractive view. So background, lighting, and wardrobe. Hang on. Here's some samples, and I got permission from all of these talent to use their pictures. These are some good types of, you know, backdrops that you are using in your homes. It could be a wall that you've painted. It could be a backdrop that you purchased. And you can find, you know, backdrop for photographers or self-tape backdrops. I would just search that if you're looking for one. I always think that it's really good if you're using just a wall in your home to maybe declutter, take off any artwork that's also on the wall. A lot of people end up moving furniture. You know, you may have one great wall with great lighting in your house, so you just clear that furniture away when you have an audition. But it's not a big deal if there's some furniture in the background. You know, people understand that you're not in a studio situation and you're self-taping from home. But here's some good looks to know what's good for backdrops in the home. And depending on your hair color or your skin tone, I mean, you may want to have a specific backdrop that makes you look really good on camera. So I always recommend lighter tones for commercials and darker tones for film or TV or something more dramatic. At my casting office, I have painted a blue wall for commercials, and then I have a medium gray wall that I can flip the room and use that wall if it's film or TV. You can also look online for ring lights, selfie ring lights, or online audition kits, audition light kits. And also the best, I think, inexpensive option is to use the windows in your house as your lighting. And here's a perfect example. I'm standing in front of windows. I am speaking in front of windows. Don't do that. This is what you don't do. What you would do is use the windows for your lighting, and you would face the windows. Your lighting source should always be behind your camera. And then to avoid shadows on walls, sometimes you just need to step away from those walls 2 or 3 feet to avoid any shadows. Wardrobe is also just like backgrounds. Keep it simple. Maybe wear something that suggests the role that you are auditioning for, but no costumes. Sometimes if somebody's auditioning for someone and they're a doctor, like they'll think, oh, I need to have a lab coat. No, maybe just something that has a collar to it. No one's expecting you to have specific costumes. And it's just not the best way to go. Just something that doesn't distract from you. Wear something that doesn't distract from your performance. And I always think solid colors are best. Avoid small, busy patterns. Larger patterns are okay, but just nothing distracting. Okay, let's see where I'm at. So do you need professional lighting? I'd say that's based on your situation, where you're taping, how often you're taping, what market you're working, what level you're at. If you're more advanced and you travel all over the country and you are auditioning all the time, then you probably have some professional style lighting for your auditions, or you have a more professional setup in your home. If you don't, and it's something you do part-time, or you don't get that many auditions, just work on having a really just base your decision on whether you're purchasing anything based on how many auditions you're getting, where you're able to audition in your home, and what that audition product is looking like. And that's something that your agent can also help you figure out. So generally for all commercial auditions, you're going to do a motion slate. And a slate is just a verbal introduction with your name, height, and agency. Sometimes casting directors, we ask you to add some additional information in your slate. So just always follow the instructions that come along. I would say just really important, when you get an audition, just slow down and read all of the instructions, because you know, we type a lot of instructions in there, and it's just best that you go over those instructions instead of forgetting, oh, I was supposed to tell the story of, do I own a pet currently, or am I allergic to anything? So sometimes we're asking for specific information in slates. So sometimes casting directors will ask you to do your slate first. They may ask you to do your slate at the end, a tail slate. Casting directors do things differently, so just follow the instructions that you're given. For slates for commercials, it should be warm, inviting, confident, and poised. I would say overall, you're taping at home, but you want to present yourself that you are a confident performer and you are comfortable on camera. We don't want to see that you're feeling rushed or you're nervous about doing your self-tape at home. Just make sure you're coming off in a very confident way. Generally for commercials, it's up close on the face, and then you turn for profiles, and then you turn for full length profiles. Sometimes we ask you to put your hands up to the camera, and you want to do like, just slowly do turns like that so you can see your hands. Film, slates are different for film. You know, generally they may have you introduce yourself, what role you're auditioning for, but it's not as upbeat and warm and friendly as commercial slates are. I think Keena may talk more about that coming up. So let's move on. All right. Okay, when you have dialogue and where to focus and how many takes. So I always advise memorizing the majority of your lines. If that's not possible, okay, I understand it may not be. At least know your lines in the beginning, middle, and the end of the script, so you basically will avoid looking down at a script the entire time of the audition, because we want to see what's happening with you. Always on camera, your eyes are the most important part of your body telling the story in the scene or in the commercial. So we want to make sure that you're, you know, not just stuck in your script. If you need a reader or a scene partner, try to use someone, preferably an adult, in your home, or maybe via Zoom. I think Michelle and Keena will also talk a little bit more about that coming up. Make sure your reader isn't a distraction from your performance. It's really simple, especially if you're using a tripod and you have a reader, have them press record, and then they can step back away from the recording device so that they are not louder than you are. Because most people are using their smartphone, and most people aren't using a microphone unless you're at a more advanced level. So just keep that in mind, that if somebody is reading the other parts of the dialogue in the scene with you, they should not be louder than you, and they should underplay it a little bit. So again, it's more about you than the reader. And then focus. This is really important. You might need to actually talk to or refer to different places in your audition. So one easy way, you know, you can do, when people come into the casting room, we always set up where the focus is for the other characters that they're going to deliver lines to in the scene. You could put a piece of paper up on the wall so you know you're looking at that same place each time, or know that you're looking at the, you know, the picture frame that you have over there, that's going to be the other person in the scene with you. Just set those areas up and then stick with them so we understand and we're clear that you're talking with multiple people. Another thing that really happens a lot that I think would be really helpful is, especially for commercials, pay attention to the script length. Know whether it's a 15, 30, or 60-second script. And and try to have a sense of, well, how long are you in the commercial? I mean, it could be a commercial with 15 different people in it. So if the direction I've given you is, pour yourself a cup of coffee and smell the coffee and show us that you love the coffee before you take your drink, you have to know it shouldn't last 30 seconds if it's just a 30-second commercial, because there's a lot of other business that may be going on in that commercial. And therefore you adjust your action in the audition accordingly. Edit and send. I think this might be the hardest part that some people have to deal with. So I hope that we get some good questions today, or maybe Michelle and Keena can also talk about how they handle this. I know this has to be difficult. I think I would have a hard time trying to edit something on my smartphone because I'm used to using my computer if I have to edit anything. So a lot of times when you're going into a casting director to see them, we're already using programs that tape you, and then we're able to do easy edits within those programs. So it's a little more difficult for people at home. If maybe you might be more advanced, you might have a Mac computer, or you might have a PC that has an actual editing program on it that you can use and practice and become really good at it. It might be that you are just sending takes from your phone. That's okay. Generally, what I do is I'll just say, just make sure you trim the beginning and the ends out if there's anything weird at the beginning or ends of your takes. And I generally send people a Dropbox because I know that they're able to send each take separately and each photo separately that I request. And I find that if you're in a beginner mode, excuse me, if you're in beginner mode of all of this, that may be the easiest way for you to do this if you do not even have a clue as to how to edit anything together. But I get a lot of self-tapes that are edited together. So people are figuring that out, but it's perfectly okay if you're sending to me the Dropbox, through the Dropbox link, separate clips. And then compress the size of the file so that it's not a huge, I mean, these video files, depending on what device you're using, can be really, really large. So learn how to compress a file so that it's smaller, but it doesn't hurt the quality. And I always suggest labeling videos and photos. Generally, there's instructions that have been sent to you about how to do that. It helps me because I may know who I've requested for an audition, but I need you to use the name that you use in casting networks. So I know that's how I know you, from the name you use in casting networks. So if it comes in and it's a last name I don't know and I don't necessarily recognize you, it just, a little time I have to go back and do some research to figure out who you are, or listen to your slate. And then go back and figure out, well, what agency are you from? All of that. So learn how to label your videos and photos. And there's also some great file transfer services out there for large files, like WeTransfer, Dropbox, or Hightail. I just always suggest not to use YouTube, even if it's a private YouTube channel. I really don't like anybody sending me a link where I have to download it and I have to know an access code to download it. Just try to use file transfer services that don't require those things. And then always review the audition instructions, please, 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 before you send your audition in. That is very helpful. And you can find out if I forgot to do this one part of the audition, and you can take care of that. And then super important, I don't know how many people I get emails from at the last minute. Hey, I know the deadline's 3 o'clock, but I just am now uploading and my Wi-Fi is really slow today. I think it's always great to get your self-tape done as quickly as you can and upload as quickly as you can, because then if you have trouble, you have time to get tech help from your agent. Sometimes agents want you to send your self-tape to them so they can review it before it's sent on to me. Whatever situation you have with your agent, I don't care. I just want to get it by the deadline so I have time to process everything and get it to my client before the deadline. Okay. So what happens is, generally now the first round is always these self-tapes. Second round is generally a Zoom style callback. And let's say, for example, if it's a commercial, the ad agency and the director will review. They'll send me a list of names of who they would like to see in a callback. And what happens when they're making this selection is it might be that your audition take was nowhere near what they want, but your look is what they want. So they want an opportunity to give you some redirection and just to see how you handle taking direction and, see you as much in person as they can before making their choice. So again, when it's time to do a Zoom, if you haven't done a Zoom before, get yourself a Zoom account, and it's free, and practice Zooming so that you are familiar with how you're going to log on and what that whole setup is going to be like. But again, keep it like your audition. Make sure you have eye level position for your camera, good lighting, a good background. Again, doesn't have to be professional, just has to be good. Okay. And then be ready to adjust your frame. And that's where that tripod comes in handy, because we might say, you know what, you're great, but what we want to do is see more of your body for this. So can you back up a little bit? Just be prepared that you may be asked to back up or widen your frame. And if you are using a small tripod, I always suggest having some banker boxes or books nearby so that you can stack up and make your tripod higher if it's not a tall tripod already. And then just be prepared to try different takes because you're going to get redirection from the director. And generally, I'll give you a time for the Zoom. You will, just like you logged on today, you're going to be put in a waiting room. And when we're done with the person ahead of you, we're going to bring you in, and everybody else is going to hide their camera from the ad agency, and you may just see the director. But then I'm going to tape what you're doing on the Zoom, and that's your callback audition. And I think that may be getting pretty close to the end of my presentation. Just saying that, hey, self-tapes are here to stay in some form. So just, make sure that's a skill set that you practice. It's really simple. Practice makes perfect. And I really appreciate all the time and effort that it takes actors to do your self-tapes. I seriously do. And I really look forward to seeing talent again in the future, perhaps the summer, who knows? But that's what I'm hoping for. So I'll turn it over and let Michelle and then Keena will talk after Michelle.
Joni, thank you so much. That was amazing. I, like most of you, am still learning how to do this. So the first thing I do when I get a C-mail or an audition notice is I get excited, like, yay, another opportunity. And then I panic. Okay, so when is the audition due? How many lines do I need to memorize before that? How am I going to find a reader? All that good stuff. So I'm going to kind of help you and just walk you through what I have in my home and some tools that I have accumulated in my arsenal to hopefully that maybe it might help you, maybe not. It's basically taking what you have, your environment, and making it work. So first of all, the main thing that I love Joni saying was follow the instructions, because I audition in Kansas City and St. Louis and Oklahoma and Georgia and all over the Midwest. And every single casting director's instructions are different. And we we all have to adapt. And it's so important. Joni talked about the end, and we'll get to that, but that just even down to labeling your file correctly, because every casting director is different. So I always just say, like, make it work for you, but more than anything, be prepared. You put so much effort into your audition and making sure that you have the best read possible, the best shot at that job. And so don't mess up when it comes to sending it in or labeling it incorrectly. So I have a video that I'm going to share with you that's my setup. And these are things I've accumulated over the years, starting with some lights and then some, microphones, backdrops. And so hopefully this will help you with what works for me. I think we'll need to try that again. Can you hear it?
We don't have sound.
No.
Okay, so let's.
Hang on a minute, everybody. We're trying to work that out.
Thanks, Stacy.
If you can hear it now.
I'm going to share with you what has worked for me as we've adapted to self-taping at home. I've invested in a few key pieces of equipment to make my self-tapes look the most professional without breaking the bank. For my backdrop, I bought something simple on Amazon that had just the stands, and then they came with 3 different pieces of fabric, white, black, and a green screen. For me, being blonde, I did not look good on white, and black seemed very harsh. So I bought just an extra piece of fabric at Joann's. It's kind of got a little bit of texture to it, and it's heavy enough, and I didn't have to iron it out, but you do want to make sure that you clear out those wrinkles or steam your backdrop if you can. I have a lavalier microphone that I use. I'm going to unplug it so you can hear the difference. It's used on my iPhone. I've tried to buy camcorders, but my iPhone seems to be great. And then I have this little adapter so I can plug it in. I also have a boom microphone that I use when I have a reader in the room. I have not used this in a while because you want to sound louder than your reader, but with a lavalier microphone, often the reader sounds too far away. So this works, and it's under $100. I have a couple of softbox lights, as you can see. Some people have used the ring light. I've heard casting directors not like it because it makes a small ring in your eyes and your pupils, but some people are fine with that. Maybe not right on the camera because it looks a little too YouTube-y, too flat. So I usually use a couple different soft boxes. I move them around based on if it's more of a dramatic film or if it's commercial where you want to look a little bit more bright as opposed to creating shadows on your face. Try not to film in front of a window. As you can see, I've got lots of light behind me. It's blown out and I don't look great. There's lots of shadows and not good stuff that's happening. Let's say you don't have a light kit, how you can use that window. I put the window directly behind my phone, the camera, so that light is on my face. But as you can see, as the sun goes behind a cloud, the lighting changes. It's not consistent. It's important to stand in front of a blank wall because it's just clear and they can just focus on your face, as opposed to me standing in front of a desk where you might be distracted. You might be looking at the picture frame, like, who's that cute little baby there? Or why is there a giant S over her shoulder, as opposed to my performance? And finally, it's all about reading those instructions and making sure that you follow the casting director's wishes when it comes to framing, whether they want a little headroom. I'm assuming all of you they'll say, make sure you shoot horizontal. So if you're shooting on your phone, shoot horizontal and not vertical. And then if it's a commercial audition, most of the time you're still looking off camera, but sometimes they say read directly to camera. If it's kind of like breaking the fourth wall or you're playing a news anchor or reporter, then you look straight to camera. Otherwise, you're going to find your reader, the other actors, on one side of the camera or another. Sometimes I'll read to one character and then change it up and acknowledge the actor over here. And especially if you have a reader who is on Zoom or FaceTime or Skype or whatever you use, if they're not in person, you can play with your eye line a little bit more. So I hope this helped. This is what works for me, and I'm constantly learning new things and adapting as we self-tape more and more often.
All right. So I want to talk about who I use for a reader. We are actors, so we use our imagination all the time. So right now, most of us have to imagine someone is in the room with us. So I have always tried to have someone in the room when I've done self-tapes before, because I feel like I can look at a real person in my eyes. I feel different if I'm looking at a face as opposed to my light kit. But I've also I've put up pictures sometimes just to look at someone, to have someone to connect with, whatever you need to do to find the best performance possible. So I started with doing some FaceTime calls with people. And bottom line, you need to find your tribe, like your friends, a group of filmmakers, a group of other actors that you can help out. And they don't feel bad because you could return the favor, so if you read for them one time, then they read for you, then you have a better reader on the other side too, because I'm sure Joni will could talk about this more than I could. But I know when I have auditioned where I've been just, I don't have the time. So I've asked my husband to read. And those instances, I feel like I can see I'm annoyed in my face because my husband's not doing a very good job reading opposite me. Like I am silently judging him while I'm doing this performance. So I'm not in it. So, and yes, we do have to use those people. Like, for example, my husband one time came up and did an audition. This was a while ago. He's learned much more now, but so all of a sudden he's reading and then he stops and goes, and then he keeps reading. And I was like, what did you just do? In parentheticals, it said beat. And so he thought that meant beat. I don't know why he didn't realize it was pause. So, so yes, we are adapting. And if you can find a filmmaker friend, another actor, that is great. If you can't, then you use a significant other and you help them understand what they need to do to get that, the best way to support you and give you the best audition possible. So the next thing I will say is that I've had problems with the reader either overpowering or maybe I couldn't hear them quite as well. And this is new with all of the self-taping and using someone else on FaceTime or on Zoom or whatever you might do. And then there's also sometimes a delay. And I'm all about pacing when it comes to an audition. I want to feel like I am basically interacting with them. And even a second delay can make a huge difference in how your audition comes off. So do kind of test it out. And then, and like I said, I use my eye line. I've had auditions where I've gotten feedback where I was too far over and you couldn't see my other eye. So I try to stay closer to camera than I feel like, oh, that's really close. I'm going to look directly at camera. And the feedback I get usually is, no, we'd rather see your two eyes and be a little bit closer to camera. So with those Skype, FaceTime on I use another phone or an iPad, and then I use my phone to videotape. I will do a test run, and then I will adjust their placement. Like, let's say I do have a lav on, I might put them close and I might even turn them toward the ceiling so I get the best sound from them through the bottom of the phone. And so that I know the levels, so they are not as prominent as my voice, but we also want to be able to hear them. So when you see those, reactions from you, because that's a big part of it too, is how you react to the other actor. So those are some of the tricks that I do. It's in terms of editing them down once I get that audition. And by the way, I still try to nail my first audition. I know it's going to be a while before we get back in the room with casting directors, but I think that now that we have this opportunity to do 1 million takes, and I know some of you do, we do so many takes, and I still approach it like I have 2 or 3 opportunities to get the best audition, and things can look overcooked and they don't feel real. So I think that's another goal of mine, is trying to limit my number of auditions. If I don't get it, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to do it again. You want to send in your best audition. You do have the opportunity. Everyone has not all the time you have before that audition is due. And another thing that I try to do is I try to get that audition in as early as possible. So if it's due on a Thursday, I try to get it in on a Wednesday. And I know if it's like a 2-day turn, or if it's a lot of copy that you're having to memorize, I really do try to get it in early, especially if you have technical problems. You don't want to be, on Actors Access, you can't submit after a certain time. And if you're sending it to Joni, that it looks poorly on you to submit it late. We've all made mistakes and not, oh, I had the wrong date on I have 3 auditions and I thought that one was due on Thursday or whatever it is. So we're all juggling, and doing our best. But I do try to get mine in a day early. And then in terms of, I edit everything on my phone. So you can use your phone and I can even crop if there's too much headroom. You can crop in a little bit. I use iMovie on my one computer, and then I used to have on my PC, I used Filmora, and it is not the best editing software, but it's really inexpensive. It's like $30, and I use that one. It's fine if I just want to, like, put together my slate, my close-up slate, followed by my wide shot of my full body shot. If you're doing profiles or whatever you're doing, you do have to edit those together. So that's when I go on to iMovie or Filmora. And when I'm submitting, I just make sure that I label it correctly. I mean, sometimes it's a matter of, oh gosh, you missed, it was an underline versus a space. And those things do matter. So there's so much for us to navigate. It is tough. And there's a lot of anxiety that comes with auditioning, period, because we're all nervous and we want to put our best audition out there. And then we have to juggle, we have to be our own production crew. So you can do it. I know Keena auditions for much bigger projects and traveling and hotel rooms, has to do auditions there. So we're all adapting. And I think most casting directors would tell you, and Joni would tell you, that, they just want you to do the best thing that you can, the best audition possible. And they understand we're navigating around a lot. All right. And I will toss it over to Keena.
Hi, everybody. How you guys doing? Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Joni. That was also great. I just have to second what you said, Michelle. Like, I do not do a gazillion takes ever. I prep my auditions, just so you guys know. I prep my auditions like I'm going in the room. And I really try never to do more than like 3. And obviously, unless something is really crazy, but I really try not to do more than 3, just because, I want to stay practiced, that I am ready to go in the room to audition and get that one great take. And I want to be able to do that. And I also don't want to sift through 20 takes trying to figure out which one I love in editing. That ends up taking up your whole day. And if you have 4 auditions, no one wants to do that. So I want to second that. It's just great practice to be really ready. So I'm going to talk to you guys about just some self-taping tips that I think help up your chances of booking the job. I'm like, wait, should I look at my camera? Yes. Okay. That help you like book the job. And these are things that I personally do. So I'm going to share my screen. And let's see if all of this goes well. Let's see. So everyone can see this screen and you can see me. Yes, I can't see anyone else now. But so I call this Keena's Keen Tips to Make Your Auditions Book. This is what I like to call it. So let's just, for a second, let's just talk about, hold on one second. Hold on, why can't I see my other stuff? Okay, here we go. Great. Stacy, I might need you. Let's see, hold on, I'm sorry. I can't see my, okay. So wait, you guys are seeing this? Michelle,
we're seeing the thing that says presenter window, and then we can see your main slide with the other slides underneath, and we can see the text off to the side.
Okay, so you can see my whole screen. Okay.
Hit that, got it. So we get that one out of the way.
I was afraid this would happen. Now I can't see my notes though. Okay. Sorry guys, I don't know why.
Keena, why don't I run it from my end, and then you can look at your notes on your screen.
That would be great. Thank you. Okay. I stopped. Yeah, great. Perfect. Thanks, guys. Sorry about that. Technical. Okay. So, oh, I see what I did there. Thank you, Stacy. I appreciate it. Okay. So let's just go. Like, how many of you guys really feel comfortable with your self-tapes that you're submitting, right? Like when you submit them, are you like, this is amazing. I should definitely book this. I did this work so great. Or are you guys like, I could have like done a little bit better? What is that, right? Like, I want you guys to feel comfortable when you're self-taping. I want you to feel like, yes, even if they don't pick me, I know I did everything that I should be doing. And that's my goal for you today with these tips. This is going to be quick, obviously, but that's what I want you guys to get out of this, okay? First thing I always like to say is find your, whatever you need to get in the moment, right? So find your dance, your song, your affirmations, whatever it is that you need to be like, I'm ready to go. This is my audition. Let's nail this, baby. Whatever that is, get it. If it's music, whatever that is, okay? Now, the 7 tips we're gonna go over today quickly is gonna be framing, eye lines, what's in the room, moment before, environment, movement in a scene, and then talk about keeping it simple. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Great. So we all know we should be shooting from chest up, not really any headroom at all. If you go to the next slide, Stacy, these are from 4 different auditions that I've done recently. It's pilot season here in LA, so it's crazy busy. But as you see, all of them are chest up. Even I'm sitting in some of them, I'm standing in others, but they're all chest up with very little headroom. That's where you want to live, right? You want to live there because your eyes are, as we all know, the window to the soul. So that's what they want to see. They want to know what you're thinking, what conflict's happening. They don't need all the extras, right? That's what they want to see. Okay, you can move to the next one. Let's talk about eye lines, right? Eye lines trip people up, especially if you have 2, 3, 4 people in a room. As Michelle stated, right, you want to be right off camera, and it is closer than you think. So if this is the camera here, right, your first person should be right to the left of camera or right to the right. You don't want to be looking over here. And I get it. Sometimes you're like, but I'm in the car and I look like this. We're not acting as if you're in the real car. We're acting as if you're self-taping for the car, which means you just need to be looking right to the right or to the left. If you have multiple people, you need to be specific about those people that are in the room with you for your eye line. So I have a client who was just talking about she's going to be auditioning for a movie and she has a judge in her thing. So the judge is a little higher, then she's talking to the person in the witness stand, and then she's talking to her other lawyer. So the judge is a little bit higher, but still to the right of camera, but still just a touch higher, right? Then when she's talking to the person in the witness stand, and I'm sure it's harder to see me on Zoom, which is going to be maybe to the left of camera, but more at her eye level, right? And if her lawyer beside her is sitting down, she's not going to look down, but she's just going to maybe take it another inch off to the side of the right and be just right here, right? We never want to be looking up your nose or looking down at the top of your head, if that makes sense, right? And the last thing I'll say about that is make each person distinct. So this is just in acting in general, right? If I'm talking to my friend versus I'm talking to my husband versus I'm talking to an office employee, the way in which I address them, even in my eye line, is different than how I would, it's different for each, right? So I'm talking to, my husband is going to be a little bit more, easy and relaxed, right? Whether I'm talking to someone else that's not. So even in my eye lines, making sure it's, it's even more relaxed in how you're here. And, oh, I didn't hear you. Honey, no, I know, let me finish over here, right? You just want to be super specific, okay? You can go to the next one. What's in the room? You guys, it's so important that you know the details of what's in the room. And again, I'm strictly only talking about film and TV, right? You have to know where everything is in the room because you're bringing this is not an audition. It's not a warm up to get to set. It is you being on set. Right? So you need to know where everything is in the room. So if I'm in a hospital, right? I need to know that, like, yes, the bed is here, the monitor is here, the IV is hooked up here, the doctor walks in here, there's my mom is sitting in the corner there. Like, you need to know where everything is so that you can play everything of the details in the room, right? We don't want to be general, right? And a lot of times people will say, like, yeah, it's the audition though. I mean, they're gonna, when I get to the, no, there is no when I get to the space. There's no when I booked the job, because someone else did all of that and the casting director was like, great, they get it, they got it, book them, right? And we don't want you to be at home, we want you to be on set, right? So that's what I want to make sure that you guys are doing. So it's important to know everything that is in the room. We can go, yes. Hold on a second, let me catch myself up. Okay. Okay. Let's go to moment before. All right. So in your moment before, your opening beat is so important, right? Again, we are here to win this thing. We are here to book this job, right? So your moment before needs to be super strong. It doesn't mean you need to take a minute for a moment before. It means that you just need to drop us in. When they hit play, we should be dropped in to your scene already, right? So whatever that is. So for example, I'll just give you an example. I just auditioned for a pilot this week. And in the opening of that, I was looking out, I was in my kitchen. I'm looking out the window to my kids. My husband comes in and says a line to me. He has the first line, but I still took 5 seconds before to be in my kitchen, looking out my window. And as my husband comes in, it says he puts his arms around my stomach and kind of hugs me to say his first line. Again, he's my husband. I don't have to be shocked when I see him or, oh, now I need to talk to him, right? As I'm looking out the window, I feel him. I just give a little nudge that says I acknowledge that he hugged me. He says his line. And then I know, baby. And I go back, right? Because I'm in the middle of something, right? It's just a quick moment before that establishes, I see, I'm looking at my kids, whatever that is that I feel. My husband comes in, I just, hey, babe, you know, in my head is what I'm thinking. He says his line and then I go to talk to him, right? That just immediately casting knows she's looking at her kids. She acknowledges her husband came in and hugged her from behind and now we're already dropped in. Does that, hopefully that all makes sense, okay? That goes for everything, right? We wanna be dropped in for your moment before. Remember that your lines are not the beginning of the scene. Your lines are already in the middle of what's happening in the story. Right? So it's not the beginning, okay? So set the scene, play it as such. So I'm going back to take in your environment again, right? So take in your environment. So this is a build on what's in the room and who you're talking to, but let's layer that even more. So if you are really living in this space and then your whole environment, it affects everything, right? So let's say you're trying to have a conversation with someone. Let's say you're at a park and there's a part where you don't want someone to hear, right? So maybe you're talking to your other actor or whatever, and we just see someone walk by and in the middle of what you're saying, you know, there just may be a point that you're talking and then you just, I know, and it was like that, I know. And then you continue, right? That at least lets us know, oh, in the script it says someone walked by, maybe that's something you don't want someone to hear, right? These are all things that just help to elevate that you understand what this is, what this scene is, what is happening with your character and who you are, right? It's about being super aware of your entire surroundings, right? Let's take, I think I give this example in the next one. Hold on, let's see. Not just yet, okay. So for instance, let's say I'm at a dinner party, right? Let's say I'm at a dinner party and I've got my husband, I've got a friend, and I've got a friend's lover, right? Let's say I'm talking to them and I'm talking to my friend, and again, we're talking eye lines, environment, what's in the room. I'm layering this all quickly on top of each other, right? So I've got my husband, I've got the friend, I've got the friend's lover, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you want that to be. If I'm talking to my husband here, this is very familiar, right? I'm talking to my friend. When I say include your environment, that also means if I say to my friend, let's say the line is, I know that's still the funniest story I heard. I'm saying that to my friend. I know that's still the funniest story I heard. It was crazy, right? You see how I included my husband and the friend, right? I included them in, even though it didn't say I'm talking to them or that I have any lines to them, I still included them because in my environment, we're at a party and we're all talking and that's what we do. We don't just leave them out because I don't have any lines with it. It's important to still talk. And it was super funny. It was crazy, right? You and I had to have heard it, right? You include them, right? That's taking in your whole environment. If we take that same party and now it's outside at like a bonfire, that may look like this. It may look like just a simple adjustment is like, you know, that was still the funniest thing I ever heard. You guys should have seen it, right? It just adjusts you just enough so that we get, oh my gosh, yes, they're outside. It's a little chilly, but nothing else really changed, right? That's us using your environment. Again, we act as if we are on set. We capture the whole thing, right? We're living a full moment. We are not just living whoever we're talking to, okay? Let's move on. Okay, let's talk movement in a scene. Movement in a scene I know is always super tricky. And so I just want to cover a couple of things because I don't want movement to get you stuck, right? So I just want to cover a couple of things with movement. So let's talk about walking in a scene, maybe a medical bed scene, talking to multiple people, and then kissing, hugging, or intimacy in a scene. Okay, if we are walking in a scene, and unfortunately, because I can't stand, right? Any couple of steps in any direction signals to us that we're walking, right? So if I am talking to you here and it says she walks down the hall, like I audition a lot for like The Resident and shows like that. I'm talking to someone here, but I'm walking down the hall, right? If I'm talking to you here, I just need to take 1, 2 steps and come here. We automatically know I'm someplace else. I really wish I could be standing, but I don't think you guys will be able to see me. Okay. Medical bed scenes. Medical bed scenes, if you're auditioning for any of these shows, right? You are strictly, if you're in a medical bed, I'm just gonna do this. We do not wanna be like this, right? Because I'm looking up your nose. We don't wanna be like this. That doesn't do us any good at all, right? We just wanna slump down just a little. Still, we're at eye line, we're here, and this is all we need, right? This is all you need is to be a little slumped down, and then the doctor comes in and then we adjust ourselves. No, I'm fine, right? Whatever that is, right? I get it, you're a little hurt, it's not the best, maybe your arm is here, but we just want slight adjustments, right? This is how we can still capture everything, right? Talking to multiple people in a scene, we've kind of covered, but again, I just did another pilot audition for, and I was talking to an entire basketball team, and then at one point I had lines with 5 different people. Those eye lines have to be super specific, and none of them need to be too far left or too far right? As Michelle mentioned, right? No one wants to see this, right? So use whatever you have to, whether that's a Post-it note, whether that's pictures of, whether that's a cutout pic, whatever you need to use to establish those people that you are talking to, but it needs to be specific. And that also comes across in your energy, right? Like the way that I might talk to my favorite basketball student might be slightly different than the one who always gives me a hard time. Those things are also super important. And so if I'm talking to one person here and then I want to bring someone else in closer, I need to bring my eye line in closer, right? So so we can see on camera whether you're looking far or whether you're looking right next to camera, right? That is very clear. If I'm looking at my wall, which is all the way across the room, or if I'm looking right here at my laptop, my eye line moved. Those things also matter. Kissing, hugging, any of that stuff there's so many things that go into that, but one of the things is always establishing what that feels like, right? So in another audition, again, it's pilot season here, so it's crazy. You know, maybe for a kiss, there's just a moment of you let your eyes kind of like see it, feel it, stop, okay, right? There's that, right? We don't need to we're never pantomiming. We're never, we're never doing that, right? Hugging, obviously, we always can just adjust, it's so slight, right? We keep it very small, keep it intimate, right? Let me see. Uh-oh. And yes, thank you, Stacy. And then keep it simple, guys. Listen, movement in a scene, I could do a whole class on movement in a scene because there's so many different tricks to keeping things small, from holding a gun to, running. all of those things. And at the end of the day, they want to be small and intentional. And that's what we want to do. Keeping it simple, guys. Remember, at the end of the day, we're listening, responding, and we're not doing too much. It's all in the eyes. You guys all have probably heard this a million times. TV is so small. If you're doing any big movements, it's too much. You're listening, you're responding, you're having a real reaction, thinking it through. We see it in your eyes. We want to see you clearly, and then you are moving on, right? I know that was super fast. Let me see the last screen, which I do believe is connect with me. Sure, connect with me. Oh, let me say this about self-taping because Joni mentioned it. Put your phone on airplane mode or do not disturb while you're filming. The last thing you want is a call to come through and ruin an amazing take, which happened to me a while ago and it was very upsetting. Airplane mode, please. Also for, this wasn't in my notes, but I just want to say also for readers, there are a couple different sites. There's sites like We Audition. There are a couple Facebook group sites that literally all you do is put in, I need a reader at 4 o'clock. Someone will then respond and say, I can do 4 o'clock. They will call you on FaceTime or Zoom, however you want to do it. And you read with them off of the same thing. It's just a community and it is nationwide. Use those things. I also gave Andrea, she's going to put it in the chat. I gave Andrea a self-tape toolkit, which are just some of the things that I use for my self-tapes. It's got links to where I purchased them so that you can use them and get all your equipment that you need. As Michelle mentioned, a lot of the TV shows I've been doing recently do not shoot in LA. So I, have to be able to pack up my stuff to audition while I'm away. And all of these things, I was gone for 5 weeks last year during the pandemic. And I was still auditioning every day. All of these things are things that I was able to take with me easily and just go and still be able to audition and book those next jobs. So I put together a fun little kit for you guys. I just call it a little self-tape pro kit. That way you can click everything and buy the things offline. It's not super expensive. And the link is there. It's gonna ask you to confirm your email for me just as a safety. So please just know that's a 2-step process. And I think that's it. I'm looking at my last line. Yes. And please also come follow me on Instagram. Tag me if any of this really was helpful to you. I'm Keena Star, Keena Star on Instagram. And I can't wait to see you guys on set. And let me know if you guys have any questions. Hopefully this was super helpful. Thank you so much.
This was so super helpful, you guys. Thank you. So much information. And I'm going to do a few questions real fast that I've seen in chat. We're going to take a couple questions that you didn't really, to go a little deeper. Props. Somebody asked about props. Yes, no?
No.
Okay.
I mean, the only props that I ever use for the most would be maybe a coffee cup or a water bottle. And my sides. My sides are what I use as props. I don't have them on me, but your sides can be, I put them under if I'm a professor, they go under here. If I'm a doctor, I use them to look through the charts. Your sides can work for so many things. So sides, a water bottle, maybe a coffee mug. Anything else that I'm using is under camera. So another audition I just had was, I was like basically trying to almost kill somebody. You can't see it, but underneath the camera, I was holding something in my hand for the weight of it and pushing out and doing this. You can't see what's in my hand. You only see the strength of my arm. That's all they need. They don't need to see anything else in your hand. And that is enough for them to understand, got it. She gets it. She's doing it. I see the strength. I see she's strong. I see she gets that. That's it. We do not want a bunch of props at all. That's my take.
I will generally put instructions. If I think it's important for you to use a coffee mug or something like that, I'll try to include that in instructions. But I agree. I don't want to see costumes and I don't want to see anything overly propped, but it might be one thing that really helps you connect with the action in the scene. That's, that would be important to use.
Yes. And can I just say too, I'm strictly speaking too on film and TV. I know with my commercial auditions, that is a little bit different because they want to see a McDonald's bag, a fake McDonald's, whatever that is. Those are different, but yes, exactly what Joni was saying.
Awesome. Okay, ear prompters. Someone brought up that they sometimes use an ear prompter. Have you guys used those, Michelle or Keena?
I
Okay, sorry, go ahead, Keena.
I was just gonna say I don't. But I'm also I don't also believe like you should tape yourself and then play it back to do your auditions. Like I don't want to be held to anything that doesn't allow me to be as organic and authentic in the moment as I can be. And that's just the way in which I work. I understand people have to do what they need to do, but I don't want to be beholden to anything that doesn't allow me the room to feel what I may feel in that moment.
I use an ear prompter when it's spokesperson type stuff. It is a lot. I don't want to look away from the camera when I'm auditioning for a spokesperson. So I can, using my ear prompter, I could take a whole page of script, never memorize it, be able to walk in within 10 minutes, have it record in my prompter and be able to deliver it to camera. And I just like having that arsenal because I start off in Houston and they were really big on it because a lot of times you're shooting outside and they don't want to have it set up a teleprompter. The other thing, the only time I really like to use it as well in film is when I'm auditioning as a news anchor, because it's a lot of copy. And but that's also my experience base because I, for years, was a news anchor and I was used to having an IFB in my ear and people talking to me while I was reading something. And there's always a lot of juggling. For some people that I've noticed that start using ear prompter, I know that they're using ear prompter because they are dead in their eyes, because they're in their head. So, it's a skill, I think that, Michael, I'm sure you're accomplished at it, but a lot of times for newer people, if you are not, if you haven't done it a lot and you haven't learned that skill, maybe really master it before you try it in an audition, because like Keena was saying, how it's always in your eyes. And that's the same for spokesperson, something that's a spokesperson role or news anchor role. You're still trying to connect with that person and look directly in the camera. And so if you are in your head trying to stay behind a phrase behind, and you're hearing your phrase and then you're reading your phrase and then you start to sound kind of sing-songy, it can get into dangerous territory. But there is a time and place, I think, to use it, at least for the auditions that I do.
Okay, one last question, and then we're going to go into the networking groups. For the Zoom callbacks, Joni, and mostly for you, do you prefer computer versus phone, or what's your advice there?
I think it depends on your situation, where you're Zooming from. And have you used your phone before for Zoom? That seems to be the biggest amount of problems that we have when we try to connect with someone is they might be trying to use their phone and they can't figure out how to, get their camera to work or sound to work on their phone through Zoom. So I just always say, if you're going to have a Zoom audition, a Zoom callback, just make sure that you know what that means and you practice beforehand. Even if you have a laptop nearby that, if my phone's not going to work, I at least have another device I can jump to. Whatever's best for you, whatever the strongest device is that you have, the smartest device you have to use is what you should use, but practice beforehand so you know what the framing is going to look like and that you're going to be able to utilize that.
Great, thank you. So these ladies are going to stick. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, they're going to stay with us and be in the rooms, some of the breakout rooms too. Those of you who want to hop off and don't do the networking, this is an okay time for you to do that. I do want to invite you back next month and have Stacy come on for a quick second. Next month, we're going to do on March 20th. It's going to be film festival programmers talking about what they're looking for and how they book films. Stacy?
Absolutely. We are going to on March 20th, so same time, same process to sign up. We've got 4 programmers lined up who all have some experience in Missouri and other parts of the country. So we've got a split between narrative and documentary programmers, and they're going to go through and talk about what they look for in submissions, the best way to get your submissions noticed, what festivals are looking for right now. So it should be a lively conversation about that.
Awesome. looking forward to that one too. So those of you who are going to stick around, stick around. Those that are going to meet with us next month will say adios. What happens next? This is only the second time we've done this. We're going to break you into random groups, and we're going to have 3 prompt questions. There's a few board members from the Missouri Motion Media Association and myself going to kind of wrangle the questions a little bit, possibly. Might not be enough of us, but the first question, introduce yourself, kind of your bullet point, quick introductions. And then the second question, if we still have time in the room, is maybe share one of your favorite casting experience stories that would help us get to know each other. And then if we have time even after that, then talk about any tips and things that you've learned in your self-taping session. And not everyone is actors. We have some producers and writers on the call too. So network, you all know how to do it. We know how to do it in real life. Let's do it. And now we're going to magically be put into these groups. Ready? And well, I invite you.
Finish the recording to the end of it here.
Okay. I invite you all back to join us March 20th. I want to put it on your calendars. So see you next month, I hope. And when we talk about film festivals and the programming of film festivals. And how about
yeah, I just wanted to add that you can go to info or you can go to momaonline.com to sign up for our newsletter, because we're also promoting what the topics are each month. momaonline.com.
And Andrea, if you just put a couple people asked me about the link again for all of my self-tape setup stuff. So if you can just post that again so people can click it, and it'll take, Cool. Thank you.
There it is.
Posted. Wonderful. Thank you all. See you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.